Okay, I'm Debbie Markowitz. I am one of the co-creators and still run the Long Island International Film Expo, or as we call it, LIFE, or as Brian O'Halloran calls it, LIFE. And we are going into our 25th year this July 13th to the 17th. Website's longislandfilm.com, by the way. We opened mid-April for submissions. And I came here last year and I absolutely fell in love with it. With the Palm Beach International Film Festival. It was great. And Kyle, in fact, will be on our Better Festing panel this summer. So that'll be exciting.
Awesome. I feel like most of you don't know me right now, but if you don't, just a couple faces I haven't recognized yet. But my name is Kyle B. Thompson. I'm the programming director of the Fort Myers Beach International Film Festival. So I've been doing programming for 4 years now for this festival. I sort of kind of quickly had to just learn what it was to program in general. As a filmmaker myself, I run a film company in Philadelphia called Red Flight Pictures. So I've had the opportunity to travel to many festivals, including Blackbird Film Festival, which is awesome. And sort of got to learn sort of what other festivals do really well and sort of hopefully incorporate that in some of this festival here. So
that was very nice.
Was it nice?
Mm-hmm. And my name's Keith Giosa. I'm also part of the programming team here at Fort Myers International Beach Film Festival. I just love saying that because it's so many words. And on top of that, I'm a producer with Red Flight Pictures. I also work as a composer and an audio engineer. And I became acquainted with this whole process and the film festival here, again, thanks to Kyle, who just randomly about 3 years ago said, "Hey, you want to watch some movies?" And just sent me a login to Film Freeway. And
he didn't know he was getting into it.
I had no idea.
So obviously a whole bunch of knowledge in here. I want to actually ask you guys a question first, though, right? Out of this panel, what do you guys want from this panel? What's some things you guys want to take away in the next hour or so? And maybe we can sort of focus our conversations around that versus up here just sort of talking. I have some just generic questions that we're going to ask everybody on this, but I also just kind of want to hear from you. What do you guys want to take away from this? Yeah.
Okay. I would say what are your main considerations in terms of the films that you accept, and what are some things you see in a film that immediately you're like, nah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing as just the judging process, what you guys go through, and especially how it might differ, how it might be different, and how you might approach it differently. I think I'd be curious about that.
Cool. Awesome. Anything else? That's it? No, expectations? Oh, great. Bar's low. All right, so I think let's start there. Let's start with, for you guys are different festivals and all other places, right? So when you guys are doing a selection process, right, what is it for each of your festivals? Sam, I'll start with you because I think you've told me that's a very unique way of doing it, what you guys sort of look for. So I'll kick it off with you, man.
Yeah, I think so. Blackbird is actually partnered with a college, the Logan State College in New York State. And the festival runs an internship in the fall. And the internship brings in college students who are studying either video production or cinema studies, this kind of stuff. And these are all students who are looking for an internship, but they're also looking to get their eyes on film submissions, right? Because they're kind of figuring it out. They don't really know what they're doing. They're trying to figure out how they're going to submit to festivals. And so one of the best ways for them to get a sense for that is to watch what is being currently submitted. And so every fall semester, I live in the academic calendar. I don't know how many. I talk to people and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't live that way." But the fall semester, I bring on about 35 to 40 students who are assigned. They work in groups of 3 to 4, and they are assigned through Film Freeway a selection of films each week. They don't know who else has been assigned the same films. Then when we meet again next Monday, they're then put in groups of 3 to 4, and all of those 3 to 4 students have all been assigned the exact same films. They don't know that, but they've then watched them the whole week, and then they're given a rating sheet. They got to go through the list. Usually they're assigned typically it amounts to about 3 to 4 viewing hours of films. And then they go through that list and they work in a team and they vote on which ones they want to advance to the next stage. And the films and honestly, the student judge, you might think, they're students, whatever, but they are the hardest. Honestly, I have to go back through oftentimes and say, guys, let's relax, right? These are independent filmmakers, you yourself are an independent filmmaker, take it easy. But yeah, they whatever films they move forward, they vote to move forward, they go to the next stage, which we term the pro judges. And these are alumni filmmakers who have been to the festival before. They're either alumni filmmakers or they're like college, again, just because we're in the college system. They're college professors who are studying film, et cetera, writing about film. And these are pro judges who kind of work on their own schedule. And any films the students recommend then are sent off to these filmmakers / academics who then watch and review on their own time, which some of them are really, really prompt. Other ones take 6 months to finish one film. So it really depends. But they're putting their kind of professional eyes on it. And then eventually, whatever films make it to the first and the second stage, then go to the third stage, which is the programming group, which is essentially us as festival directors. Blackbird has a team of about 3 to 5, depending on the season. And we'll go through the top. Usually we have about 300 to 400 films that make it through to the very end. And then we will go through as a programming group and watch every single one of them. And then we get in huge fights about which film we like, which film we didn't like. And then eventually in January, the deadline approaches for us to make our final decision. And we shake hands and make up. And we still in our hearts hold on to the films we love that didn't make it in. But, we move on. So anyways, that's our kind of selection process. And yeah, definitely happy. I think both of you might have asked, like, what are you looking for? And like that's a whole can of worms to unpack because everybody's different. But I can certainly tell you what I'm looking for, what stands out to me, and what doesn't stand out. But that is our process. It's like a 3-stage thing, and it yields pretty damn good results, I'd say. Just because that 300, usually about 300, 350 films at the end, they're all fantastic. And it really comes down to more like which films speak to which films, right? So if you're watching all these short films and you start to code them as you watch them, and some of them pair nice. So when you go to a short films block, there's the short film, but then there's the other films that surround it, and how do they all speak to the same message or the same theme or the same whatever? And that's where the battle really happens in the programming stage. People want different themes, and films don't fit in other themes. So, anyways, that's a long-winded answer. I apologize.
No.
I defer.
The selection process, ours is a little different than I know yours, and also I know what Palm Beach does. Fort Myers, sorry, wrong one. Anyway, what we do is we have about 8 judges. When the films come in through a film freeway, the judges start watching them. Some watch right away, some wait a couple of months. If a film gets 3 no's, it can automatically not be watched by anybody else. If it gets 3 no's right up. So everybody watches it, goes through. I think it's a 10-point scoring system, everything from cinematography to story to originality and whatnot. But then it comes down to, after months and months of watching this and pushing the other judges to finish watching this, then I am basically like the tiebreaker when people are fighting over everything. It's like when somebody say, "You're Kamala Harris." When there's a problem, you step in and go, "This is the decision." But it's not often I need to do that, but I will if there's alumni films. It's they may get, we flag things. I'm going to call it green flag. Doesn't mean we're taking the film, but it means things we need to pay attention to. Is it alumnus? Because if it's an alumnus, somebody else in the films are exactly the same. We can only take one. We're probably going to take the alumnus, but that doesn't always happen. Sadly, we turned down like a bunch of alumni this year, and that's always heartbreaking. But we look at a lot of different things. One thing about Life, and I think you do it here too, is that we don't have a specific genre. We will take films of any genre if they're really well-made films. So we even have a horror block. We may have some little horror films sprinkled in as well. We have a Midnight Madness block for those films. This is like late at night, like almost midnight, that just kind of don't fit anywhere else, but they're really good and they deserve to be seen, so then they'll go in that block. We try and program earlier during the day. We'll program things that maybe will get more of a serious audience, seniors, whatever, people looking for documentaries and whatnot, and everything else a little bit later. Again, you try and put the films together that will work together. Mm-hmm. So it's a puzzle at one time too, because we go by the highest scores. Okay, Any 10s? Okay, we got a 10, where are we going to put it? Okay, 9s, let's get all the 9s in. Where can we put those? And then you play around with it. Sometimes it's a matter of timing. You know, you get a film that's just 2 hours long, and we're more than likely not going to take it. It's possible, but very unlikely. And we even say that in there. Because if we do that, we can't really program anything else with it, and we do like to put two things together. But, you know, we say we don't take films. I think we don't take films over 2 hours, and you know, somebody will beg you to take a 2.5 hour film, and every now and then we'll go in and say, but look, you got to know the chance of us taking this is really, really minimal. You need to know that. But if you blow us away, then we're going to take it, but they've yet to blow us away. You know, so we take animations and student films, documentaries, dramas, comedies, horror, sci-fi. In fact, we have a sci-fi block this year. LGBTQ, I mean, you name it. If it's a really good film, we'll try to find a way to program it. But of course, you're turning away a few hundred films, so you know it's not a perfect process. But you have a lot of people who span from a lot of filmmakers. We have a couple of consumer judges who are not filmmakers because we want to know. Filmmakers ourselves, because I think we're all filmmakers, are harder on films and ourselves than anybody else. So if you have a couple of people who maybe they missed these couple of things that were, you know, that a technical person might catch, but it's a really good film. So you know what, we're going to take a chance that the audience would like that. We also have a couple of movie theater owners because they know what they would program and they feel they know what audiences would like. So we have a whole mix of mostly professional judges, and we start usually taking submissions mid-October and stop. I think, is it March, John? I think it's early March. We stop taking films, yeah. And then it's just months of finishing off everything and fighting with each other, and yeah, and then eventually we come up with the schedule.
Are we still the same question? Sorry.
Yes.
All right. Apologies, as a programming director, I get pulled into when we have technical issues, which is what I had to go address right now. But everything's good. So our judging process is, I think, is very similar to you know, Deborah and Sam's. To be point blank, we go through a 3-level process, right? From the first level being anybody can watch the film, right? Moviegoers, maybe not necessarily professional filmmakers, but just people who just really love movies and sort of know what to look for, right? If we can get past that, then it gets into the more like the professional era, like filmmakers who can look at like the technical side of things, right? One of the big things that we look for, and if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry if you guys mentioned this, but like sound is like the biggest thing that sort of makes us sort of like be like, oh, this is going to be rough, right? Because sound, I think Walter Mertz said it best, sound is half of your picture. So, right, if your sound is really bad and your story is great, it's going to be very hard for even a moviegoer to get through that project. So, once we get to the professional levels, right, we watch our film, and every film watched a minimum of 3 times. That is sort of what it's usually more, but it has to be a minimum of 3 before we even sort of consider at the programming stage. And once we get to the programming stage, for us, it's sort of about we want to help as many filmmakers that we possibly can and right, get your film screened on a big screen. So another big part of, I think for us, that makes it a challenge of turning films down is going to be length, right? So, right, if you have, let's say, a 40-minute short film, and it's great, that's amazing, but I think I speak for for you guys as well, but we want to sort of help as many films as we possibly can. So if you have a 40-minute short film, you're up against 5-minute short films that are equally as good. We're going to most likely program the ones that we can get more into a block than not, if that makes any sense. So I think, and then once we get to the program, we start to, it comes down to like space. I think you guys do like themes and stuff too, which is really awesome. We're toying with that a little bit. We're trying to figure out how that could work, because it's great. But yeah, we really look at sort of like what blocks are. We don't want to make blocks super long. Like, I mean, I've been to festivals where like, hey, this block's 4 hours. And there's an intermission here. And you're like, okay, that's not what I signed up for. But yeah, so we try to keep it for roughly an hour and a half. So we basically find the ones that we know are like awesome, and like we're like, yeah, this one's definitely right, non-negotiable. We have to get this in, and we try to build around that, and we slightly build kind of themes. It's not. I'm gonna pick Sam's brain later on because I think we do that really well in Blackbird, but that's sort of like, I mean, I think the 2 big factors for us is going to be the length of film. And even this festival alone, we had, I think, just under 700 submissions, and we had some awesome, really good films that we had to turn away for length purposes. Just like it's cool. It was just a minute or two too long. This doesn't quite fit in the block. So there's so many factors to that, right? We have a theater staff. We have we have other films happening right after this. So we have Q&A. So we have to sort of really push being on time, and that's a big part. So if a film's like just 3 minutes too long, it a lot of times sort of falls to the wayside. Do you want to add on to that? Sorry, I need to.
The only thing I would add on is similar to what Deborah was talking about. We use a multi-point scoring rubric, which is really important, so that we isolate. I think what it does is it takes potential biases out of it. I think we're all looking for a wide array of voices as judges to view all of these films. So the rubric kind of keeps us all in line with looking and prioritizing the same items. So, I think you mentioned originality, story. Like Kyle said, sound is extremely important. So, and that's what we look at. And this is going to sound really terrible, and I don't mean it to. What does a 10 look like?
Amazing.
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know that I've ever seen a 10.
We've had, usually there's 1 10 a year or whatever. There's a filmmaker, and I don't know if he got a 10 this year, but there's a filmmaker, his name's John Gray, and he does horror. And I'm not a,
he's awesome.
phenomenal.
He's so good.
And I feel like when we get it, it's almost just give him all the awards.
Right. Yeah, he's got it down.
But he's worked on a lot of television programs. He's probably calling all his friends to work on these movies. I did not see the new one, and I don't see all of them, but the ones I've seen, I'm like,
what's his?
So good.
He's the
Ghostwriter?
Yeah, Ghostwriter. That's what it is.
He works on a lot of really.
He's got the short film formula down.
Oh, and
His I don't know if you saw extra innings. Extra innings. It was like, dude, what is the deal? Yeah, he crosses between horror. John Gray always wipes the board clean.
Yeah.
He just knows the formula.
So I guess that's a kind of a good follow-up question to that, right? For your festivals, right? What is the formula? Like when you guys. Both of you guys, you have a common guy like this guy John, who I need to look up. Apparently,
John.
What about you guys intrigues? Like, what about his films intrigues both of you guys?
Well, first of all, just to say some of the things that will throw a film out, because I didn't really.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sound, no, that's okay. But sound, if the sound is bad and really bad, nobody's going to take it, and everybody will do the first thing everybody says. Move along. If you have bad acting. That's, there's, even if it's just one character that's so bad, it's just, that'll usually throw it out. It could be the length of it, and maybe not just the length as far as programming, but if you have a 45-minute film that could really, really have been better being 20 minutes. Yeah. There's just a lot of, you fell in love with your cinematography, and so you just go on and on. That's probably going to turn a lot of judges off. So that could be part of it. It could be that's too identical to what we've had before. There was a movie called Pirate Radio, I think, a long time ago. Phenomenal movie.
I played here last year.
Yeah, it did.
I played here last year.
And then, this was a while ago, so I'm sure it's a different.
Oh,
But there was an independent film that played all the theaters, almost the exact same story, because I think it was based on a true story. It's like,
was it called like Apocalypse Radio or something?
No,
there was Pirate Radio. Wasn't that one with Philip Seymour Hoffman? Like the
yeah. And then there was another one,
indie film.
But then somebody did an indie film that looked.
It wasn't called like Apocalypse Radio or something strange.
I can't remember the name offhand. This was many years ago, but it's like, but this was exactly like that. And I think we ended up taking because it was just too good to not take it. But it's exactly like the other movie, other than different people, different whatever. But
right.
But that was a toss back and back and forth. What do we do? And then even this year, we got a film that was amazing, an hour and a half. But they used footage we know they don't have the rights to. And we know they don't have the rights to it.
Oopsie doodles.
Because they interviewed all the people who were involved with these movies who said, don't make this movie. And it's like, well, how do we show this movie with this footage when he has people on film saying, don't make this movie? And we figured, if it was really well done, if we program this and it gets pulled, then what are we going to do if it gets pulled a week before the film fest? And we just made a decision. The filmmaker was furious, but he didn't have the rights to use the material. Now, if you use a song or you use some footage, we may think at times, well, maybe have festival use for it, and so we'll assume you do because you're signing off on a waiver. But if you have people on your film saying don't do this, then we have a problem with that. So
just don't do it.
So it's stuff like that, and it's maybe movies that their time has come and gone. 9/11 movies, we still actually on occasion get a 9/11 movie, but does have a really different angle.
Yeah.
Because if it has a really different angle that we haven't seen before, that maybe brings it up to date, then maybe that's a cool thing. Or I'm trying to think, like there was a bunch of years ago that there were tons of movies about people making movies and all the things and then it got, okay, enough of that. That was a few years where, all the funny things that went on. And then we just got one this year and went, and it wasn't even good. And it was like, guys, I know you think you're original. And he goes, I'm going to make a whole feature. I said, don't do yourself a favor. Don't make a feature because nobody's going to want, it just wasn't going to work. So I think when you're looking at the scores, it's the quality, it's the sound, the cinematography, the acting. You don't even have to have necessarily anything fancy with any of them. If you have names, it's great, but you don't need names. But basically, it's a feeling that they can evoke. That you're watching and you go, oh my God, it's something that glues you to the chair. It doesn't have to be a suspense or it's something that makes you cry or it's something that draws the audience in, that is going to draw the audience in.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think you can put a score on that per se. That's just a feeling that you get like, wow, you need to see this. When the other directors call me up and go, you need to see this, watch this one, and then I know we have something and I'll watch it and usually agree with them.
I think story is obviously like going to be key, right? Like, what's going to keep us interested in keeping that going? Right, it's easier said than done, obviously. Like, right, like what makes a really good story? I'm a huge believer of Dan Harmon's Story Circle. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a really good way of sort of like how he breaks down a story in a story circle and like what it means to like keep people engaged. And if you actually, there's a really good YouTube video on it where they actually used his circle and they analyzed all these different films, like the film called Stutter, which won the Oscar in 2013 or 14 for Best Short Film, and the movie Curfew, which is one of my favorite short films of all time. It's like you could basically plug in Dale Harmon's Story Circle and all of those really good stories. And I sort of know that, and watching the film for the first time, I'm like, oh, they're using the Story Circle because you're most likely engaged. Pixar uses a very similar version to that. If you want to watch Pixar short movies or even their feature films, they always have this sort of the same template that they use, like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, right? It's always like, hey, we're in normalness, and then all of a sudden that's disturbed, and it's the hero's journey. But Dan Harmon's Story Circle is
Dan Harmon? Dan
Harmon's Story Circle. Then he like makes that cartoon. What's that cartoon? I'm not a big fan of it. It's like
Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty. Yeah, it was like he does that. That's such a weird one-off. So, but going back to my question for you guys, like, what? So since you guys know this filmmaker, like, what makes it a 10? I mean, Sam, I know you mentioned he has the short film formula down. So, like, what do you guys see that as an organizer of the Blackbird?
Yeah, I don't know. Every single year he always submits, and his work always comes to the top. It's not we're not looking for it. I'm not expecting it, but every single year for the past maybe 5-6 years, his work's always been at the top, and it's always inevitably selected. I don't know. He's got the time right. His stuff is typically under 10 minutes. It's usually a twist and has always a twist. You never expect it. He always sets it up, and then always at the end there's this twist. It's like, oh, damn it, John, you did it. and now I've come to know, like, all right, this is, he's gonna twist, but it always throws me off. And again, he mixes John, like sometimes he works in horror. It's like, oh, well, John, all right, but sometimes it's not. Other times it's like, his this year we've got his film Welcome Home, which is like kind of this tech. It's like basically this like tech designer designs a smart home, and then he dies, and so his wife goes to the funeral. She's very sad. Comes back to the home, but then the house turns on. He's programmed himself into the house, and he's like, then he blames her for his own murder. Like she turns out, I don't want to shoot him. Anyways, spoiler alert. Whatever. There's a twist. There
was the one from a couple of years ago. Not Exit Entry.
What happened?
One where the kid's mother, you think she's possessed.
Oh, it's a haunting.
I don't remember the name, but actually she has a drug addiction.
Yeah,
yes.
Household Demons?
Household Demons, that's the one.
And you think that she's possessed, but you realize at the end she's possessed by drugs because she's a drug, and it's just, whoa.
But he makes it like this crazy monster movie. You're like, oh my God, but then at the end it's got this twist. It's always just his mother is the monster.
That's Stephen King movie, Secret Window. The only thing that matters in the story is the ending. That's how all that matters. I love, like, if you have a good ending of your film, that's for me. It's like, I'm like, yup,
That's an area of opportunity, right? Like I feel like a lot of short films feel like an SNL skit that doesn't have an end. It started off with a great premise, you had me hooked, and then when the credits roll, you're asking yourself, how did we just get here, and what did I take away from it?
If it's something that keeps us thinking after,
Yes.
that, oh, what, then you got something there. And you have to not be afraid to edit down your work, because you can have, and I'm not saying I'm the supreme filmmaker, but like we had not web series, a television pilot that was 35 minutes and lots of really good stuff. And we decided to bring it down to 21 because that's tighter. It's going to get into more things. Plus, for the format we're going to try and market it to, that just works better. And it was taking out some really good stuff, but it flows much better at that length, So you got to not be afraid to say, oh man, this is good, but it'll be better if. And editing is a nightmare basically, unless you're one of those crazy people that likes it. But, if you can play with it and say, take it out and see if it still works. Because I've had that happen by accident where something didn't work. I'll just take it all out and you watch it like, oh, that's better. Something that we gave away, now you have to figure, it comes out at the end, that's actually better. But sometimes shorter is better, but sometimes it really does need to be that 45 minutes, sometimes there's no way around it. But that's rare,
Yeah. There's a really good book for any short filmmaker in here that I highly recommend reading. It's called How to Not Make a Short Film. And it's written by, I forget her name, but it used to be one of the old senior programmers for Sundance. And the coolest thing about the book, there's something that I don't necessarily agree. It's like, oh, you should have $1 million behind your film. It's like, oh, well, that's not, no. But, it also, at the end of the book, there's 5 pages of all that they sent out. She sent an email to all these big top tier programmers. And they asked for what are the most cliche things that you see in films, and they list it in the back of this book. It's just typical common cliche things, and they're hilarious. There's so many goofy ones that programmers are just sort of tired of seeing. But also, it's a really good book of sort of what Sundance had looked like. I mean, obviously, listen. And I think I speak for all of us, is it's really hard to reject a film that's really, really good. It happens. Rejection as a filmmaker myself, we probably get rejections all the time. We get them daily now at this point. But it's a part of the journey, right? And it's not because the film's bad. It's because, right, a lot of times it doesn't fit in the theme. It's quite too long. Every festival I think will turn down films that are really, really good, and it's just a matter of it also may not work for their audience. Right, if there's a festival that drives, hey, we know that our town or the city is really into horror films, and you come in with this comedy, and I don't say they won't get in, but that sometimes they look at that. And we don't do that, but festivals, I don't know if you guys do that, but festivals look at sort of what the surrounding demographic is and try to also cater to that, because
it's part. As I said, we don't necessarily have a genre. We will accept any really good quality film, but just because your film doesn't get in doesn't necessarily mean it's good quality. It could mean that we have 2 films that are very similar, and then we've got to make a decision. Because you don't want to show both of them because the story's very much the same. There could be 5 million reasons. It could be almost all your blocks are full. You've got 13 minutes left. And you have this 25-minute film that's really good, or you have this 13-minute film that's really good.
Yeah,
and
sure.
then sometimes that's a difference. Sometimes that's not a problem at all because it fits somewhere else perfectly, But it's you never know. You never know what's going to happen. And then we lose films sometimes. I don't know if this happens to you, but we asked for the films to be sent in, and they're not sent in on time. And then
You know what's hilarious? You know what's so funny? Hold on. This is a funny story. Because both of you guys are asking me for my film. So I have a film playing at both their festivals, and San Diego Road. I'm trying to track all these filmmakers down. I'm like,
And then I went back.
I'm one of those filmmakers. And Deborah's technical programmer is currently messaging me. I'm like, I just need one more day. I'm gonna film myself right now. I'm sorry. So my bad's for both of you guys. Sorry.
So it'll happen, so as it gets to the end, sometimes we just don't hear from the people. We have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we gave you, this is the date. All right, this is the date. And then we have to throw it out. And some other filmmaker will get very lucky because then we go down, okay, these we wanted to take, we couldn't, now we can take them. So that's great. So that happens. This is a totally different thing, but we were going to open, we're supposed to be the 13th, but we had this really good Ukrainian film that I think won at Sundance, and it was wonderful. And we were afraid to program it because we said, this is going to get full. I know it's going to get distribution, but we can't say no because it's that good. And I feel like, who are we to say no? So we put it on Tuesday night, figuring if somebody pulls it, Nobody will ever know we put it. They pulled it.
Yeah.
They got a distribution, which we knew was going to happen. So and sometimes, and this is something else I'm thinking of, was it Miles Away, I think? We got this one feature that was so good. It was perfect, and it was wonderful, and nobody out of the 8 judges, except for John, knew what it was about. And we're all going, what? That's great, but what the hell happened? And he explained about Greek mythology but I said, nobody's going to know what this is about.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking to not take that, but we just knew we'd have a whole bunch of audience of people going, because they wouldn't understand unless they had that background in Greek mythology and all that stuff. But it just, and current day, so you didn't even know it was Greek mythology. But, and that's heartbreaking. But we just knew no one would understand it.
I also want to open the door. Like, you guys can also, but we can talk a lot, so feel free to just raise your hand. And I think Travis had one first, and then we'll go up the route.
I have tons of questions, so you can spread them out.
Okay. We'll just come back. We'll be a full circle. We'll just keep going back.
So, one of my questions, I think you touched on it a tiny bit when you just talked about the distribution thing, but obviously things have changed. Things have been changing over the years, and there's a lot more opportunities for filmmakers to get their movies out, streamed, self-distributed, all of that stuff. And some festivals require premieres, some don't. Some care about online distribution, some don't. During the pandemic, I saw some festivals that had said before, if your movie's online, it's ineligible. Change that. Like, they were like, well, we can't really say that anymore because now we're in this world where theaters don't exist for at least, the near future. So I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on that. Not just what your festival's rule is, but if you see it changing and your feelings on that.
I'll sort of Sam on that one. So I feel like you guys are still doing the hybrid, correct?
Well, it's not so much hybrid anymore. It's just that the virtual thing was, we brought it on as kind of an extra thing just because people couldn't, with the exception of Kyle, couldn't make the trip in 2020.
I was like, I got a house. This is great.
Yeah, 2020, it's like, we're going to run this drive-in. The community can come here, but like, probably could see any filmmakers. So like, let's just have some beer ready for ourselves. And sure enough, Kyle showed up with his family. He was like, oh, hi, Kyle.
Sam was like, we weren't prepared for filmmakers. I was like, yeah, I still to come. He's like,
but we launched, we did a virtual fest that year too, because we knew all the filmmakers wouldn't be there. So it was kind of cool. Since that, we saw such an interesting engagement. So we're like, well, let's just keep doing it. It's easy enough to the festival's over. Let's run like a week of virtual something or other for all the people who can't make the trip or whatever. To answer your question, to come back, the online thing. So Blackbird does not, there's no, you can have shown your film to every single person in the world and we don't care. If we like it, it's good. Right. And I think that the version of the reason we do that is because, I don't know, and I maybe don't want to offend any festivals here. I think that the inception of Blackbird was created because I and my other filmmaking friends were just upset with festivals. Like, what is the point of all of this? This like secret club. And it was like, what I think we prefer is like a place where like we can watch some films, like meet some people. And so, yeah, this idea that, there are enough festivals with premiere requirements and your film was once seen by somebody in a basement, so, like, you're cut. And, like, we were just kind of sick of that. So it's like, dude, like, yeah, this is a cool film. Like, let's show it. And, like, hopefully you'll come out and we can meet you because it's a cool film. And so that's kind of what it became. And, so we have no premiere requirement. We don't care at all. I mean, obviously, like, if the film is 10 years old, it starts to show its age a little bit. And so... it's like, well, thanks for the VHS. We actually can't. No way of playing this. But no,
I'm going to do that now.
What I would say, though, in terms of, I guess I can't really speak to the big ones because, in terms of the filmmakers we see, like, yeah, they go on to Sundance and like South by Southwest, and they go and do the big festival experience, and of course, there's like the business benefit of that. But I do think that that's not what we're about, right? Blackbird, it's too small. It's, it's more about just filmmakers, kind of in this situation, just coming together and like meeting one another in a low pressure, like, I'm not here to sell my film situation, but rather more talk about my film. And so like, and I think that a lot of the other, festivals on a similar tier, they, for the most part, they don't care too much about the premiere thing. If they do care about it, why? I guess the question I would have for them is why? Yeah. Everything's online now anyway.
It seems to be hit or miss in my experience. There's some still kind of holding on to that, and then there's others like yours that are just like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think what I would say, and this is like kind of a research path we've gone down a bit, is the this idea of becoming Academy qualified, which is like pie in the sky, whatever. And honestly, something like, I don't even know if we're all that actually interested, but one of the things that has kind of come out of this research is this premiere status, right? To even kind of enter into that realm, you have got to be a festival in which films are premiering at, right? And so, from a festival standpoint, it's like, all right, well, how do we secure a premiere? And like we played around with it a little bit, and it's like, it's such a pain in the ass because filmmakers, especially filmmakers with their feature films who are looking to land like the best premiere they can, like they'll pull at the last second. We've had this happen. And it's like we are not, here we've painstakingly put to the schedule, like all the screening. It's like we've done a lot of work and we're like just hoping that you come out and chill and have a beer with us. And like now you're pulling the film at the last minute. It's like, all right. So, in kind of the years that we've been putting this together, it's like, let's stay away from that. Like you do you, get your film the best deal it can. Like we wish you the best, but like we're more interested in like the films that have already played, and like we're like the dollar discount theater. We want the stuff that's been tried and true. Nice. And like you're gonna come out and show it to us and like laugh with us later in the evening. So yeah, no, I don't know. It's like the premiere stuff. It like certainly does not interest me in the slightest. And like if your film's been shown to everybody and their mother, like I hope that everybody and their mother liked it, and if they did, maybe they can be a judge for us in the future.
So we actually have, I just want to hear from you too, but just to contrast that a little bit, we have sort of one particular rule in ours is you can't play in a 20-mile radius of Fort Myers Beach because there's a Fort Myers Film Festival. And what happens is every year they take very similar films, specifically the local films, play it there a week beforehand, and then nobody comes to this one. So we said, hey, that's the only bigger thing, right? Because we want to have, to Sam's point, right? Our festival is mainly the whole purpose is to make sure for us is for the filmmakers to have a really good time and talk about movies and share their work. And I've met people at this festival when I was a filmmaker coming here that I still talk to this very day. There was actually a couple here, this two girls that met last year that ended up just producing a film in LA together, which was super random. I saw that on Instagram, and that's so cool. And then when you start building that culture, to Sam's point, that's what we've always wanted to be. Because, right, I know, right, the bigger festivals are great. Sundance, Tribeca, I'm sure we've all submitted to them. It's okay. You got into them, great. But like, those are some one-offs. Doesn't mean your film's bad. The smaller ones, I think, are I mean, I'm super excited to go to Long Island, but I mean, I've been to Blackbird twice now, and it's even for the 2020 year. I was the only one there, and it was great. It was weird. I had a great time. I mean, I met Sam, and like here we are now. Like I met Nicholas, who then was back. So it's a really cool sort of network, and I think that's sort of what is really important to us. But we do have that one rule mainly because we want to foster that culture. It's really awkward when the four of us are up here and no one's in the room. That's a little weird. We've done it before. So that's the only sort of like major restriction. The online thing, I'm not 100% sure. I think we do have it on there that, hey, it just can't be online. That was before like COVID. But we don't check.
Yeah. Yeah, we do, actually.
Oh, do you? Okay, cool.
Yeah, we used to have completely nothing online, but during the COVID year, we kind of gave everybody a break and said, fine, whatever people do. But we make it really clear we don't want things that are online. If you screened at a festival and it was online for like a week or two, I don't care about that. But why wouldn't somebody just stay home and watch it on their TV instead of coming? And we have a 350-seat theater and really big expenses, so we got to get people in the theater. We started doing the first year during COVID, we had a drive-in where we had most of the films virtually, but I think 40 films we showed at the drive-in because that's the only, it was extremely expensive to do that, but we wanted to have at least some of an online presence where filmmakers could come out. The ones that did come had a total blast. We had food trucks there and all kinds of things. Then when we went back to the theater, we also kept it hybrid, optional for the filmmaker. You could opt out of it, but just so, what if the theater closed and then you didn't have a film festival? So same thing this year. We figured, I think we're good, but who knows what's going to happen. So it's, again, filmmaker optional if you want to be hybrid as well as being live, but otherwise everything else is live. And a couple of the judges feel like we should always keep it online for people who just want to check it out. You don't have to do it, but if somebody a week later said, hey, I missed the films and they want to watch them, then they can certainly do that. But we really do not want things online. And that's that. By the way, it doesn't have to be a premiere. I mean, it's great if it's a premiere. We'll promote it as such if it is.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have to be a premiere.
Frank, as a programmer, don't have time to check to see if it's a good, like, you know, it's a
Two
good
of my
movie.
judges check.
It's a good movie, and we're like, you know, I think we do have it like online again post-COVID, but I mean, we don't. I'm not gonna search your film on YouTube and be like, oh no, they're done. But it's a good. Also, it's a good film. It's a good film. Like, you know, at the end, it doesn't make it a bad film. It's online. At the end of the day, you know what I mean. So, but yeah, I want to get. There's. I think. Did you have a question?
I did.
Okay.
I thought maybe you could speak a little bit to script selection too, like if someone's submitting like a short film or even a feature.
Totally.
Like those same questions, but for a script.
Yeah. Do you guys do script stuff?
Don't do scripts. Looking to get into it, but COVID kind of derailed what we were planning. But we're looking to eventually get back into it. I think the big issue is because I've done script reviews for other festivals, and it's just, you know, there's one thing to watching a film, you know, but reading a script, it's like, oof. It's just such a, essentially you have to pay, right? You've got to pay your readers to really provide the coverage that, you know, in a way that right now, like, you know, with watching films, you know, we're not paying them, or at least I'm not paying the judges. And, but with scripts, because you want the coverage to be, you know, worthwhile.
Right.
You know, it's just, it adds a whole nother element to it. So I can't comment on that. I know when I've done the work before, I've never learned more about screenwriting than when I've been reading scripts, and to that level is like, oh God, I can't do this anymore. No, it was a lot. It was a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I can't speak.
We do have screenwriting competition. They only take features at this point. I actually want to try and talk them into doing shorts, but I don't know everybody will reread them, and I don't want to. But basically, they do features. We have the judges read it. But what we do differently is we have you submit a one-page treatment for your script.
Okay.
And then they go through all those, and I don't know how many they pick, 5 or 10 or something. And then you have 10 days. Your script must be written already, but then you send it in, and then they pick the top 3. And the top one, we actually will have a reading during the film festival. Another thing I did want to mention, because everybody mentions about hanging out, we have a filmmakers lounge that's open most of the week, and free beer, so people can go hang out. And,
All right.
Is that, look at people, very good.
All right.
And, you know, we do interviews for the filmmakers in there. You know, we're going to have, things are a little tighter this year. We're actually going to give hours for the filmmaker interviews, because John does the interviews, and he would just basically be there, you know, all day, all night long. Now it's like, okay, these are the times we do, you know, the interviews, so come on down and get interviewed, and we get them up on YouTube and whatever. And we get a lot of panels too that are really cool. We usually have a screenwriting panel. We have a filmmaker panel where filmmakers tell their horror stories of the things they went through. We have a DP meet and greet, and as well as sound. We're going to bring some sound people this year. It was really successful last year. You know, you can come around and talk to different DPs. They show you their gear, maybe their reel. And I know there's a bunch of other stuff in there that I probably can't remember offhand, but we have a bunch of panels. We have a legal and liabilities panel where we have some entertainment attorneys who can talk about stuff, and a SAG panel to go over all the low budget contracts. So we have a lot of stuff going on in the Filmmakers Lounge. And to start off the film festival, we have a director's audition panel where we have about 5 or 6 different directors, and you can book a slot to come and read sides or a monologue for all the directors for feedback. So, you know, sometimes people have gotten, directors have hired people for later jobs that they met during that panel. So that's all kind of a fun thing.
Are your screenplay, the feature screenplay submissions, are those all genres or?
All genres,
Okay,
yeah. They just
cool.
want to make sure it's well written, and whatever they pick, you know, the
And this is
judges pick.
Long
I don't
Island?
read them.
This is.
Hmm?
Remember life.
Well, yeah. I'm attending the festival this year. I'm really excited. I mean, it was like,
Don't be shocked.
all that sounds great. Who's the one free beer? Anyway,
Don't be shocked when we steal that one-page treatment item.
yeah, that's good. That's actually a really
That's
good idea.
great.
The one
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, because they can't. I mean, everybody's got lives, so it's really hard to do that.
So we introduced the screenwriting side of it, and I know I think we're called a screenwriting competition. I hate that terminology, and we're going to at some point change it because it's not a competition. I mean, the film festival's never the film festival competition. It's not a marathon, right? Just because your film doesn't win an award doesn't mean it's not a good film. It's just, you know. So but we do that here. I think there's some screenwriters in the audience right now. So it's sort of similar scenarios with how we look at films. This is how good the story is. So we're mainly looking at, and I to be fair to them, I don't handle that side of the festival. We have readers who we have to pay for to do that, and I'm watching enough films to eat my time up. But we're looking for story, the originality of story. We also look at format too, how well the script is formatted, because that's also right. As a screenwriter, if you're going to go out to submitting that script to, studios, how it's formatted, right? We've gotten Microsoft Word documents that were like, it's like, oh, this is a book, cool. So we also look at the character development too, like, right? So it's the same things that you see in a film, we look for in a screenplay. Dialogue's a big one, like how well, like what makes good dialogue. You would think this is like a common thing, but it's not. Is like grammar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a lot of scripts that are submitted that don't have good grammar, to a point where it makes it very difficult to read, because like sentences, I'm like, this is one sentence, and I have, keep to tell you, I have the worst grammar known to, and
I'm literally holding back all.
I know. So if I can see it, it's pretty rough. But the biggest challenge, I think, what we are looking at, and that's why I love sort of your ideas around director of photography and sound, is screenwriters coming to festivals, right? How do we make that more valuable to them, right? At the end of the day, we want every single filmmaker to walk, I'm sure, again, everyone here on this panel the same way, is have some sort of value. So we've toyed with the idea the past 2 years of actually having actors read the scripts, like an open table read in front of an audience. We stole that idea from Independent Film Festival, which is, I don't know if they survived COVID, but they're an awesome festival as well. But they did that, it's great. We were going to do 2019, I'm sure 2020. You know how that worked out. So we also found like a lot of actors at the time didn't really want to be on stage, right, in a small room. So we're still trying to get back to that, which is hopefully maybe next year we can sort of get fully back to that. We were very close to doing it this year, but yeah, to answer, it's a long-winded answer, but it's the same idea, right? Character development, story. How original is the story, right? Can we see the story on a screen? That's also a big important piece, right? Like we should be able to read the script and be able to see it in our heads. Where if it's like, if we're 4 or 5 pages in and we like, oh, this sounds like this, then we know where this is going to go. I think twist endings are really important. They're not as of a surprise in the scripts than they are on, you can just read the last page, I don't do that, but yeah, that answers your question anyways.
It does.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're getting through your questions. What's that?
When you submit a film, so a lot of film festivals have 20 deadlines, some are just 4. Early deadline, hurry up deadline, whatever. When do you tend to program? Because I know some festivals secretly, let you know early on. Others wait till the deadline to notify and then program if they're, depending on how far out the festival is. So my question to you is, in that process, when do you watch films? Do you wait until you get to the end? Do you start slotting things in? And then, because, as a filmmaker, you think, oh, it's the final deadline. I know they've already been slotting things in. Really, is this really just for the last good ones, or is it still have a good chance? Like it's early, and then some don't even watch anything till the end. Like early deadline, you save the money, but it doesn't really mean that you're getting watched early.
It depends. It depends on, like I said before, some judges jump on it right away and they watch everything. And other judges, I'm harassing the crap out of them. Start watching movies. It really doesn't matter when you submit it. I believe it does with some, but I know because of the scoring system, that they're watching them all through. And then I think once the deadline hits, they have something like 2 or 3 weeks after to finish watching everything. We're doing something different this year where we're not giving out the schedule right away, because if people don't get their films in, then some films will be pulled and we'll put other things in their place. So, but we already know what the schedule is. This allows us, if we can, and I probably shouldn't say this, but if somebody says, well, I can't get there till such and such date, we now will have the leeway to do it, because in the past, if we can do it, if it fits with the other block, but in the past we couldn't do it because the schedule would immediately go out to the filmmakers, immediately go out to our web person. The web person would get everything on the site, the whole site. The person doing the journal would be putting that all together, and there would like 6 or 7 different stages, and one change gives you an infinite amount of possibility of mistakes. So we couldn't move anything. But this way, since the web person has never seen the schedule yet, and so that we can, if we need to play a little bit, we have, like, they pulled the Ukrainian film, it's no big deal. It's nowhere, no one knows it exists, not in our press release, so it's so we'll see how this works. We'll take it from there. But does it matter to you when? We prefer early if that's the incentive. It's cheaper if you get it in earlier. We have more time to watch.
I'm gonna let Sam answer that for him, because I feel like we might have a very similar approach to that. But
it makes no difference for us. The first two stages, they are watching films and they have no idea whether they were submitted at the first day that we opened or the last day. They have absolutely no idea. And then the programmers wait until all the reviews are done. So we stop accepting submissions, I think it's December 1st or something. Then our pro judges, they're always the ones that are dragging their feet. They usually have about a month, so they have until January 1st to make their final submit. And even if they don't, January 1st hits, they're done. Like, they are removed access from Film Freeway. I'm like, thank you for your time. And then we spend all of January, so January 1st to February 1st, doing programming. So we do not begin the actual selection stage until all reviews are submitted. There's no factor in terms of when they were submitted, in terms of timeline.
I really think that mindset of, like, the deadline things as a filmmaker, I've also had that, like, same fear. I honestly, I hope it's a myth, because, like, we're similar with Sam. Is we start when submissions are open. We have judges going through and rating immediately. Yeah. Again, we don't know when it was submitted. We don't know. We just know, hey, did you watch this already? Great, you haven't. Let's watch this one now. And then once submissions close is when we start actually building the schedule. And then from that point, once we know, like, all right, we know this one's definitely going to be in, we'll start sending out a rolling notification for it. But yeah, the actual closing, when it closes to when that's also something to look at too in Film Freeway. And this is my experience, is when you have, like, a notification date, or like the whole final deadline date, and your notification date is like 24 hours later, that's probably not a good sign. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a legit film festival. Like, it just, like, there's a lot of those weird things that I've noticed.
Yeah, like, that's totally true. Yeah, that would be a huge red flag.
Yeah, if it's like 24 hours, because that's like, you're gonna watch it in 24 hours, like, oh, we got it in. And then, there's also, like, this year, like, there's a ton of fraud on Film Freeway. So, like, right? I think if
let's talk about the fraud.
Oh, okay.
It's outrageous.
It's crazy.
It's outrageous.
It's absolutely insane. I'll speak as a filmmaker right now. I stay away from anything that's online only events. Film Freeway is getting better at that, where they've actually turned that off, where it's not public. Like, right, you can't find just regularly search on Film Freeway as an online only events. I also avoid any ones that are like 1 day film festivals. Like, oh yeah, it's this day, or there's, like, to your point earlier, 50 or 60 different submission notification dates, because shortly before the notification dates, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, and you've been doing Film Freeway for a while, is if a filmmaker has, like, put your festival on the watch list, they'll get, like, an email saying, hey, the notification date's coming up, you should maybe submit. So, but when people have it sit that way, a lot of times it's just a way for them to, like, generate more income. We do it by month too, but there's a ton of red flags to that. But also the really good thing about, I think, Film Freeway now for filmmakers is it allows you to write reviews. Mm-hmm. Like, you guys all get to write Fort Myers a review. And at the end of this, I will give you guys $10 each to write a
But that be sure.
But I mean, that's where that actually, to speak for Blackbird for a minute, that's how I found Blackbird. I mean, the reviews on Blackbird were incredible, and we look at that, and if you have good reviews, that's, I think, an important piece. So a festival should also, and I feel like a lot of festivals don't take this, I'm sort of going off the beaten trail here, but don't take that into consideration, that you guys also have a say in how this festival is run to a degree. They'll be like, hey, they didn't have, like, the free beer thing. Thanks for bringing that up, by the way. But it's also, like, that's an important piece. Like, you guys have a say in it, right? Where I think there are festivals that I've been to, that I'm sure we've all been to, that maybe don't take that into consideration, where they put the filmmakers first and then the audience second. I mean, it's a play. And on the same side of it, right? Don't let that go to anyone's head. Like, it's a two-way street. Like we're also a foundation, so take care of the foundation that's going to help get your films out there. I've also seen filmmakers, and I'm sure we've all experienced that, where they are just a real treat to work with, and I mean that very lightly. So it's also super important to just I think that's a really good partnership between film festival and filmmaker, and that doesn't really answer the question about Frog, but I think when you start to go into them, you start to see which ones are kind of like not really catered for the film festival, and then they're more catered to like profit. I think you were just telling me the other day there's like one that like charged like one for like a guest.
We were talking last night about it will remain unnamed.
Yeah, it will
but I think you shared they wanted to charge like what $30 for your infant child.
Yeah, we got
to get through the door?
So my daughter, if you guys haven't seen it, she's been running around this place for a little bit. We went to a film festival, so I won't name it, but they gave us one ticket. It was just understandable, and it was for my wife. It was like $100 to go. I'm like, that's kind of. And then for my infant daughter,
Yeah, but it's got free beer.
And you read a review about free beer. I'm kidding.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful too about awards film festivals.
Yep.
Now there's actually one film festival I was talking to that she's furious because they were like an awards film festival for like a million years, and they actually were a real film festival. But now there are 5 million Paris Film Awards, New York Film Awards. That means that basically you're probably going to get in, you're probably going to get a trophy. And it doesn't mean anything, and it's really embarrassing. I did a film, and the actress said, and I only wanted, it was a very inexpensive film, and it was a pretty good film, but I only wanted it out there for like a few film festivals. And she's like, well, can I submit? I'm like, yeah. And she's submitting it to all these awards film festivals. And she's winning everything, and I'm like, and I can't share it because it's really embarrassing because everybody knows they're not real film festivals, and I look like a jerk and she looks like a jerk. But so even though it's there's probably a place for those for people who can't get into other film festivals to look like you did. I don't know, but you got to be careful about that. If you find one, and it's been around for a while, then maybe look into it. Maybe that's like one of the 5 legitimate awards film festivals on, whatever. Or just because something says Cannes in it doesn't mean it's the Cannes.
Yeah.
It may be,
Cannes Short Film Corner is not into Cannes, just for the record.
Yeah.
You're not getting to Cannes if you got into the Film Short Corner.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And those ones are great for people who know nothing about film festivals because then you think you won Cannes. But anybody who's a filmmaker or whatever knows that you weren't part of the Cannes Film Festival.
It's actually interesting. It's an interesting concept. I hate on Film Freeway that you can list your awards on there because I mean. Speaking on our film, we don't look at those. We don't care if you were in Tribeca or if you were, in a smaller festival. I actually think it's kind of I guess it does matter to some festivals, but we don't care if you've been in 10 of them to one of them, or if a poster comes in, the laurel has it's not even a poster of your film, which is a bunch of laurels and titles.
That would be kind of a cool poster.
It would be. They exist, my friend. They exist. But it's like we don't it's great. It's self credit, but so as a programmer, we don't look at that. The only thing. So our judges, the only thing they can see is the film and the synopsis of the film.
Yeah.
That's all they can see. We don't show them, allow them to see awards because it's or the budget. I hate that question. Like, how much was your budget? Because all of a sudden, if you have a great film, your budget was like $5,000. You're like, oh, that's cute. All of a sudden it diminishes your film for some reason. So I don't list budgets even as a filmmaker on anything just because that's just if you like the story, that's what matters most.
I would say the cover letter. Film Freeway allows you to submit a cover letter, though. And I don't know about the other programmers, but when it comes to that, I was like, ooh, the cover letter, because they're not always that common. I was like, what did they write? And I always like the cover letter. I mean, sometimes the cover letter is definitely just copy and paste, and I'm like, oh, whatever.
Do you have an insert festival here?
But yeah, I know every once in a while when it's just a small blurb, it's like, hey, Blackbird, we submitted this looks cool. Cortland, New York seems to have a lot of cows. All the best. It's like, oh, we do have a lot of cows. I like you.
That's
I don't know. I do like that, but I totally agree with Kyle. Just goes on and on with the the laurels. They just they throw. It doesn't do what I think filmmakers think they do. It throws it off because so either it's all these award. And you're me, it's oh, okay, this is something, or it's Sundance or these big things. It's okay, so then you go and think all right, this film's going to be the shit, and then you watch it this is the shit. I don't even like this film. And so then you start thinking like, was it in Sundance? Now I don't believe that. So it's just like the Laurels never do what filmmakers think they do. And then they make a mess of the poster. It's just like, and I don't know about you, but when I put together the program, like we're putting together the actual promotion material, it's like, you want clean images for the films to promote them. It's like, this one is like just a slew of laurels. It's like, I don't care. What are we supposed to do with this? And so you write to the film, is like, can you please send like a clean poster? They send one with like, maybe they've taken 3 of the laurels off. And like, this one's much cleaner.
Which one's missing?
I never put laurels. As a filmmaker, I never put laurels on my poster unless the film festival demands it, and that really pisses me off.
Yeah.
And there is a film festival that does that every year, and when you would bring the big poster, they'd want you to put on the poster. These things like $150 each. I'm nothing yet.
Oh, yeah.
So I found a way to just kind of like take the back a little bit so it looked like it hung on there. But I never put the laurels on. Cover letters as a filmmaker, I'll only do that if I'm an alumni, and I think maybe they might not remember me. Say, hey, I really enjoyed it when I was there and showing da-da-da.
Yeah.
So they know that I'm an alumni.
Yeah, I do think the cover letter has to like mean something. It can't just be like, hello, I'm submitting a film. And now you can read this 10-page article like, I was born. It's like, all right, that doesn't, just short.
The one thing I'll say on that is, like for our programming team, the cover letter is a point of contention. So I don't want Sam to give the impression that instantly means like, oh, people are going to pay more attention to my film. Because for some of us, some of our programming team, at least for this festival, feel the same way you do. Like, oh, this shows a little bit of extra effort. I get to learn a little bit about the filmmaker. And then others kind of feel like, okay, that's great. I don't have time for that. I just want to watch the film. So
I will second that. There are other programs I work with that also feel the same way. So this is my own opinion. I enjoy a short personalized blurb about cows, but other programmers do indeed. He's right. They do. They're like, I don't want to know anything about these filmmakers. I don't know anything. It's like,
So what if somebody doesn't fill that out in the beginning, and for example, like, oh, I submitted a month ago, but I forgot to say blah blah whatever, and so then you add the letter. Do you get a ping?
No.
That it's just if you happen to go back, you go, hey, there's a letter.
Well, I know from our process, the judges number one do not have access to the cover letters, and it doesn't matter because we're not looking at that until it's already done. So if our final deadline has passed and then you're like, oh, I'm going to write something, like the programs are only looking, at least for our festival, only looking at it after everything's closed anyways. The judges have no access, as Kyle was saying, to any of it. They only, I think it's the same with us, they only have access to the synopsis, that's it. Mm-hmm. They cannot see the press kit, they can't see
So when would
The
you
contact
see it?
information.
Yeah, no
Not at
contact
submission,
information.
Not at viewing. Like when would you see that letter?
programming.
Yeah, so when it's the programming team, basically, and we started to look at it.
People who have full access to the...
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
not everybody does. We don't want some people to be swayed by what the other judges are saying.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
And there's, every now and then you'll get somebody who's an actor who decides they want to hit everybody up for jobs. So we make sure we don't have those people on there, but even if we did, they couldn't have access to anything and
Just
whatever.
only submit and then.
yeah, so we like that's another good point too, right? So a lot of times judges can't. So Keith and I have a very similar taste, and like we're usually spot on. Like, oh, we didn't like this or like this movie, so we don't. When he rates and then when I rate, we won't see that until we actually both watch it and we agree that we can talk about it, because I know if he doesn't like something, I will most likely be persuaded that I probably won't like this either. So then I will take that into consideration going into the film. That's not fair to the filmmaker. Or I need to go into it with an open mind, right? And that's the same way. And again, we can only speak for the 4 festivals that we have up here right now. There's festivals that probably do that, or there's definitely some horror stories of festivals that we can have a whole other panel just on that. So yeah, it gets to the programming stage, and then we'll look at the color letters.
Well, and to be clear for Kyle too, he has 2 different logins. One that he's acting as part of the programming team, where he sees the same thing that the rest of us do, and doesn't have access to seeing all of the scoring. So he forcibly takes his bias out.
So we got a couple minutes left for some questions.
Can I have mine?
Yeah, I guess. I'm just kidding.
Are you ignoring me on purpose?
Never. It's not much my mom.
His Florida mom. Okay, so when I first started in film festivals, I brought.
Wait, can we actually acknowledge that real quick? So just for the record, Elizabeth used to be the programming director here before we.
Well, I was actually the artistic director that did
all right.
everything.
I'm sorry.
It was me and Janine did
I was
everything.
just pointing that out.
But before that, I'm one of the founders of River Run International Film Festival. And that's when it was in Brevard, North Carolina.
Oh.
Yeah, and my dad decided to have a film festival. I said, okay, I'll help you out. So we had a projector. So we had cans, flown in. And I mean, I could tell you there were times when I was on the floor covered with film because it was an old projector with the big plates. And one plate would stop, and I'm sitting there doing it myself in the projection room. So it's incredible. I mean, that, you guys don't even, and then when I started making my own films, okay, it was like I sent a VHS to a film festival, and then it was DVDs, and I was like, oh, I gotta get DVDs
Yeah,
made.
Betamax. You have Betamax because we started film also.
Yeah,
We
Beta,
started
yeah.
35 millimeter category, 16 millimeter category,
Right.
VHS,
VHS.
and then we went to Beta SP, and then DVD and CD, and now it's just basically.
Yeah, how much easier that it's online, because even when I left this film festival, we were DVDs, weren't we? DVDs? Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. We had
Blu-ray.
some online.
Yeah, my first year as programmed out, it was Blu-rays, which was a nightmare.
Was a Blu-ray, yeah.
And I was like, what's
And
going
we had a little Blu-ray machine up there.
Yeah, it was like if you guys had known, if you guys were like, hey, this is all Blu-ray discs, and you guys have known the setup that we had, it would have been, you guys would have been like, I'm not coming to the festival. It was like on this like table, and it was like the worst setup.
Yeah.
It worked. We didn't have any issues, but DCPs are just super easy.
So, but you know what? In the end, it was a lot of fun. Number one, how many years have you been into it? Because I know I'm pretty much done with it. Film festivals. I tried to watch some films for them. And I did watch, I don't know, probably 10, 15, something like that. And then it pooped out. I was like, I can't do this thing. Okay, so how long have you been into film festivals? Did you start, is it volunteer, or did you start at volunteer and then become, I guess paid or professional, whatever it's called? And I can't remember the third one, so just go with those.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 8 years with Blackbird. And then before that, I've been going to festivals for, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 years, I guess. And I didn't do submit actual film, but I did send off a few VHS back before it was DVD or whatever. And then the other question was volunteer. Yeah, Blackbird's always been volunteered, still is volunteered, no one's paid. We all.
Because I know at Naples, it started volunteer, and now the programmers and everybody get paid.
We don't get paid.
We never did.
Yeah. Ours is, I've been doing this for 25 years. I co-created it with Ann and Henry Stamfel and a few other people who passed on or whatever. We don't get paid. We've never gotten paid.
Yeah, and remember that, people. They're volunteers usually.
That's what people.
And it's because they love film,
I get just keep going.
Film festivals are a real fast way to live that long.
Okay,
So, how long have you been doing it?
25 years. I was one of the people
Wow.
who created it. I don't watch all the films anymore. I stopped about 3 years ago, only because I make so many of my own films.
Right.
And help so many other people that I didn't want it to hurt their films. So
Yeah.
I step back and I only watch now if it's somebody I know, because I want to see if I can fight for it, if I need to. And if there's, two of the film, 3 of the judges love something, 3 of the judges hate something, and then if I have to go in and help make a decision. But other than that, I just don't have time. And again, I don't want to hurt anybody.
But first off, I would love to just give a round of applause for our guests today. I know this is 7:30, but guys, thank you so much for hanging out. It's been great.
Yeah.